Alright, is rollerblading back? Lately it feels like things are on the up. But is that really what's happened? Let's have a look at how things used to be. To 1991, and inline skating was the fastest growing participation sport there was. And this was just the kickoff. In 1994, it was all over MTV Sports, getting huge exposure and raking in $650 million. Oh my goodness, you'd open the door, there'd be kids flying all over the place on rollerblades, and the brand owners would be swimming in pools of money. Hey, do you fancy investing in this Facebook lark, mate? I think it's going to be big. Facebook? Are you having a laugh? That sounds ridiculous, mate. Rollerblading, that's where the smart money's at. I'm also going to stick a couple of quid in Yahoo as well, sounds fun. According to national statistics, by 1995 there was 23.9 million people rollerblading.
That's a lot of fish.
The X Games was started off the hype of rollerblading, with skateboarding riding off its coattails, only having 4.5 million people getting involved with that. And the hype train kept going. By 97, and at its peak, there was 29.1 million people giving it a bash. Senate, an iconic rollerblading brand, were doing pretty alright as well.
We made $13.5 million.
However, skateboarding didn't think inline had earned its spot. They'd gone through a massive struggle to get where they were. Inline skating just kind of turned up and took all the glory. Their reaction to that was pretty full on hate campaigns. Dave Carney's Big Brother Skate magazine had taken shots at rollerblading. There was an interview with Ilo Eisenberg, all contrived to make him look a little bit silly and reinforce the notion that rollerblading was lame. Rollerblading became an easy target for a cheap laugh, with Jackass getting involved on multiple occasions, and then there was that joke.
One homophobic joke killed me, and what's the hardest thing about rollerblading? Telling your parents that you're gay. That one little joke, the whole thing went away. I never understood it.
Skateboarding was relentless in forcing the narrative that rollerblading wasn't cool, and that definitely had an effect. By 2004, the numbers had dropped to 17.3 million. That same year, Inline Street was kicked out of the X Games as well. Between 2000 and 2010, participation had dropped by 64%. As the numbers dropped and that uncool narrative loomed large, big companies and major sponsorship just dropped right out. Fight! Fight! Things started to dry up, leaving only a core to continue underground. So what do I think has changed? For me, it felt like things began to pick up again in February 2018. But it started off with a little bit of a panic when this was posted. The end of Valo. I'd seen rollerblading popularity dwindling, but Valo's presence always made it feel like things were going to be alright. There was always something to look to. Their end felt like a huge blow and a real low point. I felt a great sense of loss. Honestly, I was fully stressed when I first seen that post, man. I was sweating. I was like, this is it, man, we're done. It's over, game up. But there was a glimmer of hope.
Help me, Obi-Wan.
Julio.
You're my only hope.
Thankfully for my nerves, it quickly became apparent that John had a plan to go independent, and this brought around a great and enormous sense of optimism.
Like Winter Clash, we launched the company, we did the whole social media push. We raised $150,000 within a week, I think it was, in 2018 at Winter Clash, through direct sale, through our wholesale accounts, through all the shops. Thank you all the shops to this day.
This allowed the venture to happen and showed there was a great community out there that had faith in rollerblading and John. I believe it was a combination of that dreaded feeling of what we might have just lost, and then what John could potentially do going independent. People resonate with blader-owned companies. When you know it's a blader at the helm, you are fully on board. I feel like it was at this point there was more positivity in rollerblading and things really started to pick up. I'm going to go over a few points that felt like growth and felt like we were moving in the right direction. A little jump forward to 2019 and the them collaboration with Intuition liners. Intuition make premium boot liners full of innovation and unparalleled industry standards. Although that may seem small, it felt pretty big to me. Loads of people were using the Intuition V2s or even the V1s and are absolutely like singing their praises like a choir. It felt special and it felt like a brand slightly outside of inline skating had faith in it. In the same year, Aaron Feinberg strapped up again for an appearance at the Blading Cup, and rollerblading appeared on Braille. Now you may have your opinion about Braille, but it's interesting to think that they seen value in getting rollerbladers in there. In 2020, Soichiro bagged 90k at a comp, although this one was a bit of an anomaly because the comp actually hasn't had blading since. But again, it's interesting to see that they put up that kind of money and they saw a value in rollerblading. With the help of the community and independent, them got themselves into a position to move away from the open mould in the 908 and then onto their own design in the 909 and had a UK tour. It felt enormous and the excitement around it was palpable. It was so inspiring, it was great to see the community come together and I could feel the growth. Also, it was pretty special because my cousin won in the London Jam. Buzzing. It felt like rollerblading was going to have a great year ahead, man. Then COVID hit.
Yes, this enemy can be deadly.
It wasn't all doom and gloom, especially for rollerblading. What started out as like a steady interest back in it again was completely accelerated. Brick on the pedal style, or like, you know when you're cycling down a hill sometimes and you got it in the wrong gear and you try to pedal, oh my god, there's steam coming off and your knees are just about to explode. Yeah, that kind of acceleration. One outlet during it all was the ability to be able to go outside and do some exercising. Rollerblading was an absolute perfect choice. Posts like I've not bladed in 15 years, coming back to it now, what skates should I get, seemed to pop up with intense frequency. Sales numbers and demand reflected the theory that rollerblading was growing again. Tom Heiser from Rollerblade said there was a 300% increase in demand. I heard he was sitting on a gold throne and wearing a crown when he was telling the reporter that. Online stores were seeing record profit, skates were actually selling out. It was actually hard to get a hold of skates. Obviously there was like manufacturing issues as well, but they were just disappearing, man. And although COVID was completely awful, rollerblading felt really exciting. There was a bit of a funny stage where people weren't really posting their skating because like you'd get other people having a go at them being like you're putting pressure on hospitals. After that there was a heck of a lot of people skating on their home setups, P-rails, all sorts of stuff like this. Another positive side, them increased royalties from $10 to $15 to $25 to $30 per skate, meaning Danny Beer could make 30k. 2020 also saw the triumphant return of John Bellino, the greatest comeback in rollerblading. By the end of 2020, them skates were available at the Braindead store, a well-known streetwear brand, and a great alignment, so not only putting them in front of a new audience but allowing people to actually come and try them on. The ball kept rolling into 2021 and rollerblading was getting some great exposure, and I don't mean like a flash in a pan viral clip, I mean like long-term, authentic quality exposure. Qualum is exposure. Let's stick with them skates as a prime example. Their skates were available on Essence, a huge online fashion retailer, and aligning them with quality high-end brands. In April they were in Vogue magazine, top 10 Mother's Day gifts. Slightly a bit of an odd one, but love your mother. In May they were in a position to put up billboards. They were in NY magazine, The Strategist, June Complex News. In August the Braindead collab came out. Not only did they have the skates, but they had the clothing line as well. I saw this as a massive move. Braindead were a well-known, popular streetwear brand, and it felt like an authentic relationship, and it's such great exposure. It's exposure on the right level. It felt like the brand aligned well with rollerblading, especially the way that Kyle was speaking about it. He recognised that despite the lack of money in rollerblading, John was dedicated and real, which he saw as
truest sense of authenticity and sincerity.
It felt like that relationship could change people's dated perspective on rollerblading. And at the end of 2021, John was also in the San Diego Reader. This was all exposure I feel like rollerblading hadn't seen for a very long time. Outside of them skates, there was a little bit of disappointment at the beginning of the year when Winter Clash wasn't going to happen.
But they took it online instead,
which was such a great move. It showed that there was a community out there all across the globe, and again, It felt super positive. Another notable return, Demetrius George was back. And there was definitely still people going, I haven't skated in 20 years. I've just come back today. What skate shall I get? More and more people were coming back. A new skate brand appeared in the form of Mesmer. Blader Run with Billy O'Neill, John Bellino, teaming up with Matthias Knoll. People were fizzing with excitement about that one. More clothing brands appeared, there was more YouTube content, and it looked like every competition was being really well attended. On December 17th, people got themselves into a state of rapture over the possibility of Senate coming back.
What is it, man?
Turns out the interview with Brooke Howard-Smith and guest appearance from Arlo was actually about an NFT. I mean, that's kind of modern though, isn't it? Like rollerblading and NFTs. The point was that there was a lot of excitement around rollerblading, especially nostalgia. Moving into this year, there was an article with John on orangecoast.com, and he was also on the Pair of Kings podcast, who look at streetwear and fashion, all just showing the extent of John, them and rollerblading's impact. Louis Zamora's back in action, Randy Spizer's in full swing, there's been a clip from Brian Aragon, and Chris Haffey's back on the mega ramp. The growth has also meant that we're going to see 2 Blading Cups this year and 2 Frankie Morales
Invitational
competitions. And we've been up on America's Got Talent Extreme. Everything's coming up Millhouse, and there's healthy signs rollerblading is growing with great foundations. I don't think we're going to get back to those 29.1 million rollerbladers, but if you support the core, if you support the Blader Run companies, if you support the people you really like, not just the brands but like the YouTube content creators as well, there will always be like a community there, and it will thrive like that.
We are back!
Shout out to my Patreons for supporting me and keeping me doing this stuff. You can join the Patreon, there's a link below. Cheers for watching this. Here's another one you can tuck into if you like, and I'll see you again soon. Spotty Dog.